Okay, let's now talk about the nature of roots. Before we get into the nature, what really are these roots? What are the roots of a quadratic equation? The other way that roots are called, which is zeros of a polynomial, is the easier way to remember, right? Because it's intuitive, right? Zeros. So let's say I have ax squared plus bx plus c. That's a polynomial. The graph of it looks like this, ax squared plus bx plus c. Now I want to find the zeros of this polynomial. What does that mean? The values of the polynomial, or the values of x when the value of the polynomial becomes 0. Obvious, right? Zeros of the polynomial. That's exactly what roots mean. That's why sometimes it's easier to actually remember them as 0 rather than roots. It's more intuitive. So the moment you equate this to 0, whatever value of x is going to satisfy this equation is basically the 0 of my polynomial, or is the root of my equation. This is an equation, right? I've made it equal to 0. So it's the root of my equation. Now tell me, in this graph, we've been learning everything through graphs, right? You already know how to find out the nature of roots using probably the quadratic formula. We'll come to that as well. Much easier to understand it on the graph first. So zeros of the polynomial. We need to find out, this is nothing but all possible values of ax squared plus bx plus c. This is a y-axis. Now we need to find out where the value of y is going to be equal to 0. What I'm doing essentially is, instead of writing ax squared plus bx plus c equal to y, I'm writing ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. In other words, I'm saying y is equal to 0. On your graph, when is y equal to 0? On the x-axis, correct? So if I draw the x-axis here, wherever the x-axis cuts my polynomial, that is where I get my zeros. So these 2 points are nothing but the roots of your quadratic equation, or the zeros of your quadratic polynomial. As simple as that. It's nothing but the point where the x-axis cuts your graph. Now the x-axis, here the x-axis is cutting our graph in 2 places, so we have 2 roots. That is all that roots mean. Very simply, where my x-axis cuts the graph. So this could be one case where the x-axis cuts the graph here. There could be another case if we move this whole equation up. If this is our polynomial, this is one case where my x-axis is cutting the graph at 2 points, which means I have 2 roots. There could be another case where this x-axis actually comes down and it is here. It actually touches the graph at the vertex. It touches the graph at the vertex, so it's touching it at exactly 1 point. What does that mean? There is only one root. There is only one root. Or there could be a third case where the x-axis is even further below. That is, it does not touch my graph at all. If it doesn't touch my graph at all, it means there are no roots. We actually say there are no real roots. I'll just tell you why we say no real roots. Are there unreal roots? For now, we'll say there are no real roots. So those are the only 3 cases possible. Can the x-axis be anywhere else? No, right? So those are the only 3 cases. Either it cuts it as 2 points, when we say there are 2 roots or 2 zeros, exactly 1 point, so there's 1 root, no points, so no real roots. Now this same thing, we can even do it algebraically. So far everything we've been seeing how to do it graphically, how to do it algebraically. Let's do the same thing. So these are the 3 cases we know. Very nice, we know them on a graph. Let's see if we can find them in terms of algebra. Let's keep this aside for a moment. Now algebraically, how do you find the roots? You know that the value of x is minus b plus or minus root of d by 2a. That's how you find it, where d is nothing but b squared minus 4ac. Now d is what tells you the nature of the roots. D is what tells you the nature of the roots, because look at this equation. When d is not equal to 0, that is if d is positive, then you will get 2 roots, because one value will be minus b by 2a plus root d by 2a, second value will be minus b by 2a minus root d by 2a. So 2 distinct values. So if d is greater than 0, you get 2 distinct values. Now look back at your graph. Where did you get 2 distinct values? When your x-axis cut the graph at 2 points. So this d greater than 0 should be the case where the x-axis is cutting it at 2 points. So let's put that there. So in your graph, when d is greater than 0 is the case where x-axis will cut it at 2 points. Great. We've related algebra and geometry. Let's look at the second case. If d is equal to 0, we finish greater than 0, come to equal to 0. If d is equal to 0, this term becomes 0, this term will vanish. So what are you left with? You are left with x is equal to minus b by 2a, which is nothing but only one value, right? It's only one value. It's nothing but your vertex. Do you remember we said that the coordinates of our vertex were minus b by 2a comma minus d by 4a. So when the x-axis is touching your graph, you said you had exactly one root. In algebra, we got one root when d was equal to 0. So that's the case where d is equal to 0, right? What are the coordinates of your point? Minus b by 2a is the x coordinate, which is what we got here. Y coordinate is minus d by 4a. Here d is 0, so the y coordinate is 0, which is what it should be because it's lying on the x-axis. Perfect. Both of them match. So that's the case. Touching it at one point is the case where d is equal to 0. Now what happens when d is less than 0? If d is less than 0, inside your root sign, you actually get a negative value. So if d is say minus 9, you're going to get root of minus 9. What is root of minus 9? Does not exist, right? At least in our vocabulary so far, root of minus 9 does not exist. Interestingly, in the world of math, root minus 9 does exist. Every number we think it does not exist just before we find out that it actually exists, right? For a long time, they thought negative numbers were meaningless. How can there be negative numbers? How can I have less than 0 apples? How can I have minus 1 apples? Because that's all that they use numbers for counting objects in the real world. So negative numbers didn't make sense. But now we know they do, right? So root minus 9 actually does exist, and you'll learn in a few minutes why. But if you think about everything that we know so far, which is real numbers, root minus 9 does not exist, right? In the world of real numbers, root of minus 9 does not exist. So root minus 9 does not exist. That's why when d becomes minus 9 or d becomes any negative number, there are no real roots. Because in the world of real numbers, root of negatives do not exist. So if d is less than 0, we say there are no real roots. In your graph, when did you have no real roots? This is a graph drawn on the real coordinate plane, right? So when the x-axis was below the graph, we saw that there were no real roots. So your d less than 0 is the case where x-axis lies below the graph, right? So those are the three cases. When d is greater than 0, the x-axis cuts the graph at 2 points. You have two roots, which are real and distinct. When d is equal to 0, the x-axis is actually touching the graph. That is, it's tangential to the graph. You have exactly one root. In other words, the roots are real and equal. There will always be two roots. It's just that the roots are the same. For example, x minus 2 the whole squared equal to 0. What is the answer? X equal to 2. Right? It's x equal to 2 and x equal to 2. 2 times x equal to 2. Right? Both the times x is equal to 2. So for all practical purposes, there's one root. But we say roots are real and equal. That's that case. Finally, when d is less than 0, there are no real roots. So your x-axis never cuts the graph. Right? So coming back to our graph, this is the case where d greater than 0, two roots, real and distinct. This is the case where d equal to 0, it's tangential, exactly one root. We also know the value of that root, right? Because we know the vertex, right? The minimum point lies at minus b by 2. And finally here, when d is less than 0, there are no real roots. That's why your x-axis is not cutting the graph at all. So there are no zeros of the polynomial. Again, I'll say as far as the real world is concerned. We are soon going to be introduced to the imaginary world. Those are the three cases, right? This is the case where the graph, if you see, is upward facing, right? The graph is facing upwards, which means our A is positive. We'll see how it looks when it's facing downwards as well. Pretty simple to imagine, right? Do I really need to teach you that? Think about it. Let's flip the graph around. Now, where will x-axis be when d is greater than 0? Again, it should basically cut it at 2 points, right? So it will be here. Cutting it at 2 points. D equal to 0, it will touch it at exactly 1 point. Is less than 0, it will go on top. It will not touch the graph at all. So it will be the exact reverse, right? The original figure, if you flip it, you'll get the new figure. That's it. It will be the exact opposite way. So the important thing to remember is when d is greater than 0, two roots, so it cuts it at 2 points, equal to 0 at 1 point, and less than 0, it does not cut it at all. Now, we saw a graph. So in a graph, let me take the case where there are two roots, right? I draw this graph. I draw the x-axis. These are my two roots. Let's say this is beta. This is alpha. According to my equation, my two roots are, let's say alpha is minus b by 2a plus root d by 2a. And my beta is minus b by 2a minus root d by 2a. Those are my two roots. Let's see if we can actually relate. We've continuously been relating algebra and geometry, right? Can we actually relate that equation that we see over there to the graph? Or are they completely different? They are never completely different, right? If they are representing the same thing, there has to be a way to relate them. Minus b by 2a. Where is minus b by 2a in your graph? Here. Minus b by 2a is here. The lowermost point of the vertex. So on my x-axis, if I take this minus b by 2a, it will come here. Now, my alpha and beta are on two sides, right? Alpha is minus b by 2a plus root d by 2a. What is alpha really? If this point is minus b by 2a, alpha is this point plus this distance. Correct? That's what alpha is. So from that equation, what does it tell me? This distance should be root d by 2a. Similarly, this is the same distance. This distance should also be root d by 2a. That's why this point is nothing. The value of x, we are just talking about values of x's, right? We don't care about value of y because at the roots y is 0. So here it's minus b by 2a. To get alpha, I am going plus root d by 2a. To get beta, I am going minus d, root d by 2a. That's how you get that equation. If you are given a graph and you have to find the value of root d, that's how you'll find. This distance is nothing but root d by 2a. So this distance is root d by 2a. Similarly, this distance is also root d by 2. That's how you get your two distances. Now it's very easy to understand why the graph is the way it is. If d is greater than 0, this is going to be actual distance, right? It's going to be an actual distance. So you will get two real roots. If it is an actual distance, you can add it and you can subtract it. If d is 0, this distance becomes 0. This distance becomes 0 means what? These 2 points will coincide with the vertex. That's why it comes down and it coincides with the vertex. If this distance does not exist, when d is less than 0, the distance does not exist at all. That's why the x-axis goes below. So the distance does not exist at all. So that's how you relate the graph to the formula. These two distances are nothing but root d by 2a. Now, depending on this value of d, we can not only tell whether you have two roots, one roots, or no real roots. You can also tell whether they are going to be rational or irrational. Again, let's use the same graph. When there are no real roots, no question of being rational or irrational. When there is only one root, will it be rational or irrational? What do you see? Can you see the value of the root in this graph? You can see it, right? Minus b by 2a. That's why I always think of a graph. Very easy to visualize. You will see in front of you that this single root is nothing but minus b by 2a. Is minus b by 2a a rational number? Obviously yes, right? Obviously yes, because it's being expressed in the form of p by q. So as long as a, b and c are all rational, this will be rational. Now look at these two. Look at the case where it's cutting it at 2 points. So minus b by 2a for us is rational. Minus b by 2a for us is rational because a and b are rational. Now look at this. If d is not a perfect square, let's say d is 5. Let's take a case d is equal to 5, a is equal to 1 by 2 and b is equal to 1. Okay. So minus b by 2a will be equal to minus 1. So this is nothing but minus 1. Now this is going to be root 5. This is also root 5. So my alpha becomes to minus 1 plus root 5 and my beta becomes to minus 1 minus root 5. So both your roots are irrational. And this is what you will always see. If d is not a perfect square, both roots will be irrational. You will never have the case where one root is rational and one root is irrational. It's simple to understand why now that you see the graph. Because at the end of the day, the nature of the roots is getting determined by this distance. In both the cases, whether it's alpha or beta, you're always talking about the same distance. Only difference is one case you're adding the distance, one case you're subtracting the distance. Now that distance might either be rational or irrational. If it is rational, it's rational for both alpha and beta. If it is irrational, it's irrational for both alpha and beta. That is why you will never ever have the case where one root is rational and one is irrational. Not possible. Because the nature depends on the distance. It's the same distance in both cases. That is why if one root is irrational, necessarily the other root also has to be irrational. So if one is 1 plus root 5, other has to be 1 minus root 5. Or in this case, minus 1 plus root 5. So the other one is minus 1 minus root 5. So irrational roots will always occur in pairs. You'll realize that the same thing happens even in higher order equations. When you have a cubic equation, if you have irrational roots, you'll always have either two of them. Never one. It'll either be 2 or 0. Or if you have a fourth power equation, you'll have either 2 or 4 or 0. Never 3 or 1. Because they always occur in pairs. And we understood why, right? Because it's the same distance. You're either adding it or subtracting it. If it is irrational, both will be irrational. If it is rational, both will be rational. Right? In the same example, if I make d equal to 9, this distance will become 3. Right? So your alpha will be -1 plus 3 and your beta will be -1 minus 3. So you will get -4 and +2. Both are rational. So to quickly summarize, the value of d is what determines what the nature of roots is going to be. When d is greater than 0, x-axis will lie here. There'll be 2 roots. In this case, when d is a perfect square, you will have both rational. If d is not a perfect square, you will have both irrational. If d is equal to 0, then there'll be a single root which is equal to -b by 2a. All of this is assuming a, b and c are rational. So this will be a rational root. And finally, when d is less than 0, it will lie below your graph. That means it will not cut the graph at any point, which means there will be no real roots. The entire plane we are drawing the figure on is a real plane. So in this case, there are no real roots. Those are the 3 cases. It gets exactly reversed when the value of a is less than 0. That is, it's reverse. I take the entire thing and I flip it around. This is how your graph will look, right? So the x-axis will be right on top when d is less than 0, tangential when d is equal to 0, and cutting it when d is greater than 0. So that's how you will find the nature of the roots and locate the roots on a graph.